About 2-3 months ago, Kevin started planning his vacation. And I don't know if you know this about Kevin, but he's the most anxious human being I think I've ever met. When he started planning vacation 3 months ago, he wanted to have speakers lined up the day he decided he was going to take vacation. He's been on me for the past 2 months about getting volunteers ready for every single Sunday that he's gone. Whether or not it's 4 or 5 weeks out, he's just anxious. He wants to make sure everything's set in place. And so as we were sitting there, I was sitting in his office during some of my office hours, and we were talking about guest speakers. I honestly don't remember if it was him or I brought up the idea of having me speak. And I was like, I might as well try. I've done it a couple times at Penn. I feel like I don't remember if I did something. I've done stuff here on Sunday nights back when we were doing a Sunday night service. But around that same time, I came across this video of somebody talking about how your feelings don't affect how God moves within you or moves around you. And so I kind of wanted to dive into that today. So the message is called Beyond Feelings, God's Unchanging Presence. I don't know about you, but God can feel really close sometimes. When you're worshiping your favorite song, when you're worshiping your favorite hymn, when you have an experience that's a positive answer to prayer, a healing that you've experienced, or whatever it is that you've been praying for finally happens, or when you're communing with other believers, when you're spending time with one another, it can feel like God is really close. It's really easy to feel a nearness to God, to feel His presence when life is good. But God can feel really distant at times. It seems like everybody goes through rough patches in their lives, and in those moments of hurt and pain, it can feel as if God is really far off. We put so much stock in our own emotions that we sometimes treat them as fact. We find ourselves thinking thoughts such as, that person hasn't talked to me lately, I feel like they're mad at me. Or that person didn't hold the door for me, they must be upset with me, they must not like me. But in reality, that person might have not spoken to you for a while because they've been busy. Or that person didn't hold the door for you because they didn't see you. But in your mind, you get these negative thoughts and they hinder your relationship with another person, whether they're true or not. Just yesterday, 2 days ago, Rebecca and I were in the house, and I was cooking supper, and she'd been sitting in the living room the whole time I was cooking supper. And I got up, because it was like a time of break where everything was in the oven and I didn't have to do anything. And I went down and I sat on the couch. And as soon as I sat down on the couch, she got up and went into the bedroom and started watching TV. And I hadn't seen her all day, I've been busy all day. So my thought was, she's upset with me and she is avoiding me. And we ate supper, and afterwards we talked about it. I was like, so what did I do? And she was like, nothing? I was like, well, what was the problem then? She goes, I just really wanted to watch my show. I thought we were going to watch something on TV, so I went to the other room. But for like 2 hours, I thought she was upset with me, literally just because she got up and walked away and walked away. And for that 2 hours, I was kind of hurt for no apparent reason. There was nothing that actually had happened. And yet, that feeling I had, I treated as fact. I treated as if she was upset with me, when in reality she wasn't. When it seems easier to feel God's presence in the good times, we set this dangerous precedent. We associate God's presence with good emotions, as if the Lord is only near when you're content or joyful or peaceful. But in reality, God is constantly near you and you can be completely unaware of it, as you were too distracted by the less than ideal situations that you were in to enjoy His presence. I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of times where I'm sitting right across the table from somebody, and I'm so wrapped up with whatever I'm doing on my phone or whatever that I almost completely ignore their existence there. It feels like they're not there. But it doesn't mean they're not sitting right in front of me. It just means I'm too distracted to notice them there. In reality, He's constantly near you. God is constantly near you. And when we get into those times where it's hard, we get so distracted by the pain that we neglect speaking to Him. We neglect asking for the peace that He provides. We neglect experiencing the peace He provides. We can get so consumed with our own struggles that we end up neglecting God, all while feeling like He's far from us when He's not at all. To illustrate the power of worship in times of hardship, let us turn to the story of Job. In the book of Job, we encounter a man who's experienced unimaginable loss. He lost his family, he lost his business, he lost his health, and his possessions all in a single day. And if you keep reading on, it gets worse too. For 37 chapters, he experiences hardship and experiences silence from God. At no point during those hard times does the Lord say, "Oh, I'm just testing you," or "Oh, it's going to get better at the end." Eventually, the Lord speaks at the end, but for 37 chapters, he's silent. Yet even in the depths of his struggle, Job remains steadfast in his worship. His faith was not contingent upon favorable circumstances or immediate answers. Instead, he proclaims, "Naked I come from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." This is the NIV. I believe another version says, "Blessed be the name of the Lord." I don't know about you, but that song is so like happy-go-lucky. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the name. That I didn't realize at first it was taken from Job, and it kind of takes on a whole new meaning that this song written in the early 2000s. It's like a fun little camp song that you could enjoy. Was written while Job was in one of the hardest parts of his life. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. May the name of the Lord be praised. Job's unwavering worship during times of trial teaches us a valuable lesson. It teaches us how can we apply this wisdom to our own lives. During the storms of life, it is in our best interest to cry out to God, expressing our deepest emotions and seeking His comfort. Engaging with Him even in our pain allows us to experience His peace and draw closer to His heart. Even though distractions and struggles may make us feel as though God is far away, the truth is He remains by our side, ever present and loving. Let's turn to a couple of scriptures to reinforce the assurance of God's constant presence. In Psalm 139, 7 through 10, it says, "Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast." In Hebrews 13, it says, "Keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you." And in Matthew 28, Jesus says, "Surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age." When I first took on the worship ministry job here as an actual job, and not just filling in on Sundays, Kevin was very adamant that I memorize Psalm 23. I haven't got there yet because I'm bad at memorization, but this psalm contains so much worship and so much truth about our relationship to the Lord and who the Lord is to us. And so I'm going to read this to you real quick. "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for His name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." Fun fact, I think it's the New King James, says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And honestly, until about 2 years ago, I thought it was referring to our struggle with the Lord. He's going to be there to shepherd you whether you want to or not. Because that's what it sounds like. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. But I had a conversation with somebody and they were like, "No, that's not right. It means you shall not want anything. You lack nothing. The Lord is there to provide." Same with the end of Psalm 23. "Surely your goodness will follow me all the days of my life." Growing up singing that hymn, "Surely goodness and mercy," I did not know what a surely goodness was. So it was very confusing singing that song growing up. So I appreciate the different translations clarify a little bit. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This whole psalm talks about the Lord being ever present and ever providing for you. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. It doesn't say I lack some things. It doesn't say the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing until I have a bad day. It says the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. Period. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil because you are with me. Again, it doesn't say when the valley gets even darker, you're not. Or when the valley gets even lighter, you're there even more. It says, even though I walk in the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. We find this beautiful imagery of God as our shepherd, guiding and protecting us. Even in the darkest valley, we shall not fear, for he is near us. He prepares a table for us in the presence of our enemies. He anoints our heads with oil and fills our cups to overflowing. His goodness and love follow us all the days of our lives, and we can trust that we will dwell in his house forever. God is faithful and keeps his promises. If he promises to never leave you, then you can trust that in the darkest valleys of your life, he will be right there with you. I originally wanted to call this sermon, Facts Don't Care About Your Feelings. Then I decided against it because there's a popular political person that's kind of the slogan. I don't want to come across that way, that I'm supporting one thing or the other. But it's true. The fact of God's presence near you does not care about your feelings. In those moments when you feel like God is nowhere near you, he's literally right next to you. He is omnipresent. I picked the image of an empty chair. It's been in the background of all the slides throughout the sermon because I learned this tip, this trick, from somebody last October while I was at the pastor's retreat up in Wisconsin. The speaker talked about this thing he called the empty chair. He told of a time in his life where his family was in transition. And he had moved hours away. It was like 10 hours away from his family to go prepare a place for them because he started a new job. And so he was there for months before his family moved over with him. And so he spent months alone. And in that time of feeling alone, he found that whenever he was sitting there with an empty chair next to him, when his wife wasn't there, when his children weren't there with him, he imagined Jesus there with him. He would take those times of despair and loneliness to remind himself, not only is he not alone, but the God of the universe is right there with him. There's another very similar illustration online of this guy who said that he struggled to pray. And so whenever he wanted to talk to God, he would just sit in an empty chair in front of him and have a conversation. He wouldn't take the time to bow his head or get on his knees or do any of that. He just talked to God. So when you are alone, imagine Jesus in that empty chair. Imagine him in that empty spot in the pew next to you. Imagine him in that passenger seat when you're driving by yourself. Imagine him sitting on the other side of the couch when you're home alone. What does his presence mean to you? What does it mean for you? That Jesus is sitting right there next to you. Do you need to feel alone? Do you need to speak to him? What is presence bringing peace or comfort? God is faithful and he keeps his promises. When he assures us that he will never leave us or forsake us, he means it. And even in the darkest valleys, we can find solace and strength in his constant presence. Let us worship him in our times of trouble, cry out to him, and engage with him wholeheartedly. Our emotions do not define God's nearness, for he is with us always regardless of the circumstances. May we trust in his omnipresence and may his unwavering love and guidance sustain us through our lives. I'm going to move us into the time of open worship. I did not know how long this was going to go. I apologize if that was too short, but I'm going to read the end of Psalm 23 and open up the time of open worship. Psalm 23, at the end, it says, "Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever."